Hey, math friends. So our learning target today is I can evaluate absolute value, which we've talked about that before, using the order of operations. So let's take a look at what we know about the order of operations. We just got done covering this with square roots, but please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS. And we know that this is what's called a grouping symbol. We talked about that. And you've always known that parentheses are a grouping symbol, so you always have to do all the stuff on the inside of the parenthesis. In our most recent lesson that we just did, we learned that the square root is also a grouping symbol, so you have to do all the stuff on the inside. So the third grouping symbol, and I covered this, just mentioned this, but we didn't practice that. That's our lesson today, is the absolute value bars, is our third grouping symbol. The absolute value bars, we also have to do all the stuff that's on the inside of those bars. Okay, so that's our goal today, is to use order of operations still. So still all the same steps, but we have to make sure we do the absolute value first, all the stuff on the inside. So let's quick review of what is absolute value. We just recently talked about it, but the definition of absolute value, it is the distance from zero on a number line. So when we taught that lesson, if this is 0 and I ask you what is the absolute value of 2, you would say that it's 2 units away from 2. So the absolute value of 2 is 2. Likewise, the absolute value of -2 is 2 units away, so that is also positive 2. The only time it would be negative is if the opposite sign is on the out front. So we're still going to use PEMDAS. So this next set of notes is just saying, remember that we use PEMDAS, remember that we do it first, and we just kind of covered that with square roots. So how far away from 0 is 20? So if this is 0 and this is 20, what's the distance away from 0 on the number line? We would say that it's simply 20 units away from 0. Same is true for this one. It doesn't matter what direction it's in, but it is also 20 units away. So if we were to be walking, it doesn't matter which direction we're walking, we're still going to walk 20 miles or 20 steps or 20 blocks, whatever it happens to be. All right. So how far away is from 0 is 14? It's 14 units away. But this symbol means that we take the opposite of that. We take the opposite. And finally, how far away from 0 is 3? We know that 3 is 3 units, -3 that is. -3, so here's 0, -1, -2, -3. We know that -3 is 3 units away, so the absolute value of -3 is 3. So that's a review on absolute value. So how do we do that in the order of operations? All right, so let's take a look at these examples. So I'm going to do this page with you. All right, so left to right, we know that this is a grouping symbol, so we have to do the inside first. So inside of there, we have how far away from 0 is -2? It's 2 units away. How far away from -5? It's 5 units away. If we haven't used it, drag it down, drag it down. And now we're just simply going to solve this problem here of, remember this is team positive, so we would tug of war this. And we'd say that we have 2 players on team positive. We have 5 players on team negative. Team negative is stronger because it has 3 extra players. The result of that absolute value situation is -3. So let's take some time to process that. If you need to review it, go ahead. Or rewind it, rather. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my tug of war chart just so I have space here to write. So same plan, we have to do the absolute value bars first. So if we take the absolute value of 2, we get 2. If we take the absolute value of 5, we get 5. And we're going to go ahead and take that sign and drag it down. It is the exact same problem that I just solved right here. So if we were to tug of war that, we know that the result of that would be -3. Very similar problem, but once we take the absolute value, it always becomes positive. So that's kind of the difference there. All right, what if we have more than one thing inside the absolute value? Well, we treat this like a parenthesis. So we're going to do all the stuff in the inside first. So I'm going to tug of war just the inside. first. Doesn't matter which side you put the sign on. I know that I'm going to take the opposite when I'm done. I can see that there. But we have 9 players on team negative. We have 4 players on team negative. So the result of that is that everybody is on team negative. So we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players on team negative. So all of these players are on team negative. Inside the absolute value bar. Opposite once we get out. So the question is, how far away are we from 0? We're 13 units away from 0. But we need to take the opposite of that. So the result of that would be negative 13. All right. So that is the idea of PEMDAS. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this next question. So in this next question, we have to do the inside first. So if we tug of war this, we have 6 players on the negative team. We have 0 players on the 0 positive team. Well, we can put on the positive team if we want. It's really a neutral number. But who wins? Negative 6 wins. So the result of that would be that negative 6 wins that tug of war. So inside we have negative 6. The question here is, how far are we away from 0? We're 6 units away from 0. Okay, so at this point, if you want to pause, you can, and see if you can do the next problem. In fact, why don't you do that? Why don't you pause it, see if you can do this next problem, and then we'll come back as a group. All right, so you should have had enough time to solve that problem. Let's see how you did. I don't really know where I went here. All right, so inside, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tug of war. So I have 4 players. I have 9 players. They're all on the negative team. So the result of that would be negative 13 inside the absolute value, the grouping symbol. Opposite sitting on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So I have some room to show my work. Okay, so as we take a look at this symbol, how far away from 0 are we? We're 13 units away from 0. This symbol means opposites. We take the opposites, so the result of that becomes negative 13. Okay, so let's see how you did. Give it a shot. Give that next one a shot. Why don't you pause the video, give that next one a shot. All right, we're going to go over it. Let's see how you did. So now this is a situation where you have a negative out front. So we're going to attach, I'm going to attach the negative to the numerator. You really can attach it to either, but you just attach it to 1. So we have 15 divided by 5 is 3. And that's a triangle problem. I attach to the negative to the numerator, so that's negative 15 divided by positive 5 is negative 3 in the absolute value. And we have the opposite sitting outside. So how far away from 0 are we? We're 3 units away from 0. And then we're going to take the opposite of our answer. So the result of that should be negative 3. Why don't you check that out and see how you did? If not, rewind it, watch it again until you start to really understand the process of what we do with these absolute value bars. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. So inside of here is our group of stuff. And inside of there, we have a square root symbol. And we also have this negative thing going on. So let's take one thing at a time. So let's build a square. What is the square root of 25? So what number times itself is 25? The result of that would be 5. If I haven't used it, drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. So I'm going to drag all that other stuff down. The square root is now gone. So if I were to tug of war this, and you're pretty good now probably recognizing when those two negatives are together, they turn into a positive. But let's say you didn't recognize that. All right, we're going to tug of war. We have 5 kids on team positive. I have 3 kids on team negative, except it says that we have to take the opposite of that sign. So this turns into a chop, chop. So that's now a positive 3. So it actually turns out that we have 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids on team positive. 8 kids on team positive is the result of that. And all of that is inside the absolute value symbol. So for that symbol, what we're really doing is, what is the distance from 0? How far away are we? The result of that is 8. Okay, so next problem. Why don't you give that a shot and see how you do? All right, so now you should have already solved that. You should be pushing play because you've already solved it. Let's take a look at what we have here. In fact, I might move some of this stuff if the stylus will allow me to move. Nope, it's not going to. Okay, so inside of here, we have negative 2 to the second power, which is really negative 2 times negative 2. Watch the signs there. That's a triangle. And we know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So this becomes positive 4. Positive 4. So I'm going to erase the rest of that stuff. And if I haven't used it, drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. Drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. Now, inside of the absolute value, because you know that you have to do this first. We still have to do this absolute value first. We have 4 minus 6. Probably hard to tell. What team is 4 on? It's on the positive team. 4 kids on team positive. 6 kids on team negative. Who's stronger? Negative. How many extra players? 2. So the result of that would be negative 2. So let's go ahead and say that the result of that situation is negative 2. That's living inside of the absolute value. If I haven't used it, drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. Now, that symbol, as we know, means how far away from 0? Well, negative 2 is 2 units away from 0. And we're going to drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. And 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So I think I'm going to stop there for our problems. Let me take a peek at this page and see if I want to do any of those. I think we'll do one more. We'll do this box up here. This will be our last one then for today. So I'm going to have you do this box here. I want you to try this problem. So go ahead and try that problem, then we'll be done. All right, so you should have had some time to solve, hopefully. All right, so what do we do for this problem here? Well, we're going to do the inside of the parenthesis first. 17 minus 5 is no biggie. We should get 12. The denominator is a tug of war. So this is a positive 2, and this is a negative 5. Who's stronger? Negative. How many extra players? 3. So the denominator of that is negative 3. So we have 12 on the top and we have a negative 3 on the bottom. All of that is inside the absolute value bars. So now I'm going to divide because you know that every fraction in math class means divide. So that's a triangle. So we know it's 4. It's in the absolute value bars. We have a positive 12 divided by a negative 4 results in negative 4. I'm sorry, we have a positive 12 divided by a negative 3 is what I should have said. Results in a negative 4. Now, for the last part of the day, we know that these bars mean that it's how far away are we from 0, and we are 4 units away from 0. So that completes our lesson for today. So the summary of today's work, remember that PEMDAS is the order of operations, the grouping symbols, this grouping symbol, the square root, and the absolute value all are tied for first place. You have to do those first. You have to do the stuff on the inside of those first. You have to do those first. And also remember that absolute value just simply means the distance from 0. And if there's a negative on the outside or opposite on the outside, then you have to take the opposite of your answer. So that's it for today. Great job. Have a glorious night. I hope you're doing great. And if you have any questions, of course, contact me. We can go over anything that you're struggling with. Okay? Great job today.